Don't start a new tradition. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming out on such a lovely day. You know, most of you would probably prefer to be outside enjoying the day of spring that we get every so often in tomorrow. Who knows? Okay. So, welcome to meeting number 288. And I'm going to start out with some club business. Nothing you have to vote on, just inform you. One, the club has purchased a large storage cabinet, and we have permission from the good folks at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church to store our stuff here, which means that I don't have to schlep all of the stuff every month. And it also means that if we start doing that cable box stuff I talked about, where we have various types of cables for peripherals available on the, if you got some that you don't need anymore, bring them in, we'll identify them, put them in the bin, and if you need something, you can just take, no charge. So it gives us something that we can hold that with. So that's item number one. We had a thought on the back of it to get dual use of it. I'm thinking we're going to get some signage made up that'll fit in these slots. So this would be sort of like, TMG Dayton, welcome, so just because we've never had a table topper because we always have our tables so close to the presenter's table. And that way, just gives us a little bit of, and maybe not. You can tell I really enjoy rolling that thing around. Quality. Okay, another item that we did, I whined to the treasurer and to the club ambassador and to the membership chairman and the vice president that it maybe was time to get a new presentation machine for the club, every 8 years, whether we need it or not. And so the club has purchased a new MacBook Pro for use at club meetings, and it's running the latest and greatest operating system, Mojave, and it's got just those strange USB-C ports on it, which means if you want to connect anything to it, you have to use one of these dongles. So the club also bought a dongle. So this little piece of German manufacturing allows you to hook in a USB-C cable so you can power your laptop still, an Ethernet cable, 3 USB ports, the regular ports, an HDMI cable, and on this side, micro SDHC cards and regular size SDHC cards. Those are the things that your cameras use. Those are about the size of a postage stamp. But it just, I don't know. I'm not used to this. You have to have a dongle to be able to connect anything else up to it.
Isn't it terrible? It's terrible.
But at least they have 4 of those USB-C ports on it. Okay, so those are 2 of the items. The third item is, are there any club members who are really, really good with glue, adhesive, sticking broken parts back together that are plastic?
What did you break?
Sometimes. Do you want a real challenge?
What did you break?
I did not break anything. Our projector screen, last month when I got here, I discovered that the base of it had been broken and it fractured. Are you willing to take on a volunteer assignment?
There is one foolproof way that works.
I don't care what the method is. If you got a way that works, and if it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. Okay. All right. So anyway, so the projector screen's laying on the floor over there. At the break, if you want to take a look at just how bad it is, and if you want to bail, it's okay. All right. So those were the 3 items of club business. So now I don't have any more club business to tell you about for probably another 4 or 5 years. Yes, Mr. Ratchford.
Did you spend on that?
I don't know. I asked the ambassador, what did we need? He told Our treasurer, Kathy Toller ordered it. And then she delivered it, she hand-delivered it to my house. Okay, I mean,
She just wanted to see where you live.
oh no, she's still there.
Will you be sending out a description of the device and where it was ordered?
It's a refurb that we got from Apple,
Refurb?
directly from Apple.
Okay, and it's a 15-inch MacBook Pro,
i7,
i7, what year?
it's 2018, I believe.
2018, and it's got 16
Well, I
gig
can't
of RAM.
remember my wife's birthday. Can you write it down?
I can not only write it down, I can email it.
Okay.
And anybody else interested? So what I'll
If
do
we're
is I'll
gonna
just
depend on
send
an
an
email
email
from
to Mark
him,
and he'll add it
he'd
to
be
the
waiting.
meeting notes.
Yeah, 85% of the fellows can't remember their wife's birthday.
Mark, you don't have an email that has that?
Okay.
Bill?
Yes.
Mark already has that information because he sent it to me, what to get.
Okay, so just add it to the meeting notes. Okay. Anybody want specs on the cabinet? Which is actually a quality cabinet.
Oh,
Think
go
about buying a
ahead,
couple.
open up the doors.
Oh.
Does it have
So,
Bluetooth?
first you'll notice that, you can't see, but it's got quality industrial rollers. I mean, these are like 3-inch wide. I mean, you could put a car in there and roll it around. 3 movable shelves. Okay. Notice the decorative chrome finish. And it locks. It's awesome. But as you can imagine, if you've been hauling all of the membership badges and the projectors and the presentation computer and the white box of meeting stuff, donuts, etc., and you've been doing it for 27 years, and then somebody comes up with the idea of the cabinet, and you go like, why didn't I think of that like 20 years ago? So anyway, so we're going to be more efficient with this. We'll be more refreshed, which means you get better presentations. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so with that said, I asked Guillermo if we had any new members or visitors today. We don't, so we can dispense with the welcome unless somebody wants to introduce themselves to the group. You're free to do that if you feel that you're not getting enough attention. Going once, going twice. Okay. All right, so we'll go on to news. Does anybody have any news items they want to share with the membership? Going once, going twice. Okay, no news items. All right, let me see if I can think of anything. No, not really. Okay. So let's go on to freebies wanted for sale. I'm going to look over here, pretend that does anybody have anything they brought in that they're selling today or that they're giving away? Yes, Dave.
I have a Panasonic system over here.
Okay.
It works. I also have a Vonage. What happened to me with the Vonage
Yeah.
is,
Yes.
what happened with the Vonage is AT&T changed my modem to a faster modem,
Mm-hmm.
and I got static through the phone Vonage part.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 battery phones has a base and the phone sets and the wiring, and it works good.
Okay. And are you selling it or you're
No, I'm
giving away?
giving it away.
Okay. Okay, so we have a freebie on the table that Guillermo just showed, and it's a Panasonic cordless phone system, 3 receivers and a base.
And the Vonage, if you get just the plain Jane system, you can get the Vonage for around $10 or $15 a month.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And anybody else with anything for sale?
Well, I still have the Series 1 Apple Watch, if anybody's interested. Probably $80. And then brought with me the exterior unpopulated hard drive enclosure. So if anybody's interested in a exterior, and then some various other sundries. So
Okay.
see me at the break.
Okay. See you at the break. Do people have to talk to you at the break, David, or they can just, if they want it, they
No,
can
I
fire?
don't want to hear from anybody.
Okay. I told
Before
you,
or
if they
after?
come up and they want to borrow money, just say no.
Okay.
He
Okay.
doesn't want to take it home either, so
Right.
take it.
All right, anybody else going once, going twice? Is anybody looking for any equipment? Cables, monitors, power cords? Nope, okay. At this point, before we go to help desk, I'm just going to remind everybody that it's spring. You want to do your spring cleaning, okay? So if you've got legacy systems that are just sitting in a garage someplace or in a closet, under the bed, you haven't touched it in so many years, it's not giving you any value to your life, it's just another millstone around your neck. Remember, you can bring them in and we will appropriately recycle them and decommission them, which means that the data on them gets wiped so that nobody ends up with your tax returns or those photos that you don't show at work. Okay. So, just a reminder about that. And now, help desk. Anybody run into problems this month?
Just so I'll give somebody a chance to think of something, but I thought I'd do a reverse help desk.
Okay.
So I had a fairly expensive AirPlay compatible speaker system.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this where you tell us what was wrong and what the solution was?
Exactly.
I like this idea. Okay, go for it.
Well, when Apple updated iTunes and AirPlay to AirPlay 2, all of a sudden this very expensive machine became a paperweight. It was no longer. It was still functioning as a sound bar for a TV, but it would no longer accept input from iTunes because it was not AirPlay 2 compatible and it couldn't be upgraded. So I looked at various options of which would have required large sums of money and came up with a realization that I had an old Apple TV that still had a PCM port on it, and this particular device took pulse code modulation, which is an optical audio input, and simply just attached this old Apple TV with the cable to it, and voila, it's back to AirPlay 2 compatible.
Okay, so if I hear you correctly, this was a double win, maybe a triple win. One, you didn't have to buy anything new.
Okay.
Two, you got the device that wasn't working again. And three, you got a piece of equipment that you really weren't using anymore, and you've got it back in service, so you're getting more value out of the purchase of
Right.
that item.
But just in case somebody else has a similar situation, I thought I'd pass it on.
Okay. What was the original soundbar make and model?
Libratone, I can't remember the model, but it's called the Lounge, and it's about 4 feet long, and it has a built-in 150 watt amp. And so it really is house filling type
Yeah.
sound.
Yes.
It was rather disappointing that I couldn't use it for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, I like that. I like the idea of reverse help desk. Success stories instead of failures. It'll make us more positive about our outlook. Anybody else running into, thank you.
Okay, it's really my wife that's gotten this problem. She has a fairly recent MacBook Pro 13-inch
Okay,
without the touch bar.
okay,
It only has 2 USB-C ports on the left side.
okay.
When she's at the desk, one of them is plugged into power.
Mm-hmm.
So with 2 external drives for Time Machine and Carbon Copy Cloner, and she's also got a Fitbit, so there's a little dongle thing that has to be plugged into USB for that. We're using a hub that has a bunch of USB 3 ports on it, and it works fine until she wants to look at a photo CD or DVD. Well, we archive our photos, her photos, we burn DVDs and CDs. She likes to have a reader, so we have one of these Apple product, what they call it, a smart DVD player,
Okay.
reader or something.
The ones that are real flat.
Real
And
flat,
it's
silver,
slot, you
yeah.
put it in a slot and you got a button in the top.
And it's
back.
got a USB 3 or a USB 2 maybe plug on it,
Yeah,
connector. So we plug that into the hub, and all of a sudden she gets a notice that it's not recognized by the computer. If we don't have the hub connected and we just plug it directly in using a dongle that goes from USB 3 to USB-C, we get the same problem. It's like the power demand that this thing is putting on the computer is more than the computer can handle, even though this external hub that we were using has got its own power supply. It's a powered
Okay.
hub. So I don't understand why this particular drive keeps giving us this kind of problem, and it's
okay. Well, let me make sure I've got the picture clear. So we've got a 2012, 2013 MacBook Pro 13.
no, it's a 17.
Okay, 2017. 2 USB-C ports on the one side. Okay. Your dongle, your hub, dongle hub, whatever. Okay.
It's
What
USB.
you're gonna call it is plugging into the USB-C. It can accept power. Now, is that power coming from the USB-C cable that would pass through it?
No, it doesn't
No.
have a test.
It's got an external wall board that plugs
It
in.
has its own brick.
Okay.
And both the external drives are passport drives from Mac Sales.
Yeah.
And they supposedly can be bus powered. But we had a problem with them just arbitrarily and spontaneously
Yeah.
ejecting.
Yeah.
So they have their own power supplies as well,
Okay.
individually. So there shouldn't be any demand for power on the computer at all until we plug this, well, even after we plug this.
And if you just plug it in alone with nothing else plugged in, the external hard drives aren't plugged in, anything else that's USB is not plugged in, it's just that CD, DVD reader player
Right.
plugged in, you still get the,
Still get the message that it can't handle it. I don't remember exactly what the window said.
yeah. What happens if you put it on some other computer?
Yeah, if I put it on my MacBook, my 15-inch MacBook
Yeah.
Pro, which has 4 connectors, or my iMac, no problem. Works just fine.
Do you have any legacy powered USB hubs around?
Other than the one we're using.
Yeah, other than the USB-C hub.
Well, it's not a USB-C hub. It's a USB hub
That has a C connector.
that has an adapter,
Okay.
a dongle, before it plugs into the computer. And day in and day out, it works fine.
Okay.
In other words, for the external drives and all the other stuff, it's working fine, but then every time we want to use that DVD, CD drive, that's when we run into this problem. So there are much more expensive hubs available, like for Mac Sales. They have a USB one for $150, and there's one that's a Thunderbolt external hub for like $250
Yeah.
or so. And before I spend that kind of money, I need to know we've exhausted all the other possibilities.
Are you going to be down south at all next week?
Down south
Like
meeting
Centerville?
next week.
Or the week following?
Probably not.
Okay. Because what I would do is I'd swap in a different DVD reader and see what happens. That'll give you some indication whether it's just something inherently about external DVDs are drawing more power than that USB-C port or the hub can provide, or is it specific to that one DVD player that you got? If it's specific to that one DVD player, then I'd recommend you buy one of these $30 DVD players from LG Electronics, or
Walmart has LG external for around 32.
yeah, okay, or instead of buying another Apple unit, Because I found that the unit that I bought, it seems to work on everything I've got without being powered. You know, just working off of a regular, and I'm talking about plugging it into original G3 iMac, you know, the dinosaur egg G3 iMacs, like with the CRT screen, where those ports were not designed to power anything. It was meant just for a keyboard and a mouse. Instead, very low power, and it works even on those. So it could be that you've got something going on with that drive unit, that DVD player, where it's using more power than it should. Something's going wrong with it.
Well, she bought it when she got the computer, just assuming that it's all part of the Apple ecosystem, it'll all work together.
I hear what you're saying, and I used to follow the same rule of thumb, and I don't do that anymore because I'm finding I call it form and fit and finish. I'm not seeing that quality of fit and finish between Apple devices that I used to see, especially when they're Macintosh computers. And to me, I ascribe it to, have you ever seen a revenue statement from Apple where the profit comes from? It's like 80% is coming from the phones, maybe 60%? 60% from the phones, about 20 to 30% from selling books and movies and, you know, music, all that kind of stuff, podcasts, whatever. And then it's I think the watch is ahead of the tablets now, and then it's the tablets, and then it's the Apple TVs, and at the very bottom it was the Macintoshes in terms of producing profit. In other words, it's the least profitable thing they have, and I'm assuming management at Apple is following the old Pareto principle. You know, 20% of your product line produces 80% of your product, and that's the stuff you really watch carefully. And the Macintoshes don't really get the attention or the money development-wise that they used to. And the peripherals that go on them, even less so. Okay, so take it, remember, I'm not perfect. Sometimes I get these things wrong, but it just seems like over the last 7 years, this is a trend I've noticed with Apple. Especially when they start cutting loose products. You know, they eliminated all their wireless routers, you know, all that stuff. And that says to me that, you know, they didn't think it was worth doing it anymore. It used to be worth doing because it made it easier to sell the Macintosh Pros, the iMacs, and the notebooks. Now, not so much.
What do you think is going to happen with this 25% tariff?
Oh, okay, first of all, in terms of electronic goods such as the things Apple has made in Shenzhen, I think it's Shenzhen province. Anyway, over in China, it's not a 25% tariff, it's a 32% tariff.
Ooh.
Okay.
It's even bigger.
And the first thing that came to mind was, oh, that's why Apple has started manufacturing in India. Okay.
Oh, my.
President Trump's new friend, you know. So you may be seeing product
No
being
tariffs there.
imported from India into the U.S. rather than from China. Okay.
Interesting.
So we'll see. You know, the main people it's going to affect are those retailers that have predominantly Chinese-produced goods. So we're talking Dollar General, we're talking Family Dollar, we're talking Dollar Tree. There's a fourth one. Anyway, those stores are going to things are going to have to get adjusted there. Walmart, not so much. Target will get hit. They've got a lot of Chinese goods on their shelves. They're not necessarily apparent as being Chinese goods, but they are. Okay, so with that said, let's go back to computers. Anybody else have anything with help desk? Going once, going twice?
I just have a little comment.
Mhm.
I seem to remember from the distant past talking about powered hubs
Mm-hmm.
okay? Then I had that was, I had a dongle and could be powered,
Mm-hmm.
but it had a little teeny switch on it where you didn't have to use the external power.
Yeah.
Could that be on any of these devices? Maybe there's some teeny little switch someplace that they have to throw to make sure that the power from the wall is getting to the USB.
I like the way your devious mind works. However, he's got other devices which are relatively power hungry that are working through that hub just fine. And the other thing is, your DVD players, they are not power-intensive devices. So it should be able to work just with a converter, not even with a powered hub. So that's why I'm thinking more that there's either, when she bought it, she got one of the older ones that are more power-intensive, or there's something going on with the circuitry on the thing where it's starting to clutch up. I'm specifically thinking about the laser assemblies, because sometimes the lasers, they won't self-modulate properly. They're full beam all the time, sucking down the juice. Anyway, okay, I saw raised eyebrows. He thought I might even have an idea there. Okay, anybody else? Going once, going twice? Okay, Dave?
Well, I'm still having my problem with the email
Okay.
and Spectrum and all of that. It's just not, my email will work for a while, and then I get a signal that, oh, we can't authenticate your password.
Mm-hmm.
Put your password in. I put it in. Oh, we don't like that. Try again.
Okay. When I see that sort of thing, okay, so you're doing email and you're using the Apple Mail program to do this, and you've got how many email accounts? Just 2 on that one, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, there are 3. There's
Okay, so
two,
there's
but
3.
it's both 2 Spectrum and
And I've already looked at this machine, so I know ahead of time that one of the email accounts is not appropriately configured anymore, okay? And that you've got an IMAP setup and a POP setup, but they're using the same output server. So almost always the resolve for something like that is to, okay, let me just stop for a second and just go. Remember where your email is. It's not on your local computer. It's on their server, okay? So when I say you delete your email account, in other words, the settings for that email account on your local machine, that doesn't mean that you're touching any of the stuff up there. It's just how your local machine is supposed to talk to that one. And what confuses people is that you have 2 servers involved with every email account. A server, a computer that just handles incoming mail to your account, and a server that just handles outgoing mail from your account. Okay? They're not always on the same physical box. And even if they are in the same physical box, they're in virtual machines on the same box. So it's like they're separate machines. And they have to have this access to the same set of passcode files, and they have to be in sync. Okay. So complicating this is a technique called man-in-the-middle attack. Your computer is not, I'm not saying specifically yours, but let's say your computer may not be talking directly to the internet. It may be going to somebody else's machine, and then from that machine it goes to the internet. Well, you get enough of a time lag with that an email server will notice it and it'll go, wait a minute. When he responded, it timed out. And then it'll start the thing where they give you the message, oh, no, that password didn't work. Well, it doesn't say it was a timing issue. They just say the password didn't work. And then you're like me, you're pulling out the Rolodex cards or the index cards or the internet password book. Yeah, no, that's what it is. Type it in again. Do I have my caps lock on? No. Type it in again. And you can do that all day long, and it still isn't going to get you where you want to be because it's a setup issue or it's somebody in the middle somehow, some way. So the resolve almost always is to go into your system preferences, and you go into where all of those internet accounts are, and you delete the email account. You do them one at a time. You delete it, and then you reconfigure it. You reset it up fresh, and then look to see if now things are working. The other tool that I use all the time is, let me just bring this up real quick. I'm hoping Kathy Toller doesn't roll her eyes at me, because she's going to say, I know this now. Because she's a bright lady. I showed her once a couple years ago, and she knows. So this is an Apple Mail program that's up and running. We've got a menu right next to the help menu that's called the window menu. Yeah, I know, they could be more inventive. If you go into that window menu, you've got a thing called Connection Doctor. If I bring that up, I'm going to get a screen like this. Let me just zoom in just a little bit there.
that helps.
So I've got I've got some other email accounts down below, but here's two email accounts: president@tmgdayton.org and president@tmgdayton.org. One's from the incoming computer, one's the outgoing computer. And what I'm looking for is just those green dots that show up. If they're not connecting properly, I'm going to see a yellow or a red dot there. So you'll see for each one of these accounts, there's an SMTP, that's outgoing, and your IMAP, which is incoming. Same thing with TMG Dayton and the other email accounts that are on it. So that's a quick way that you can tell what's not set up correctly. You know, maybe it's not your incoming, it's the outgoing. And a lot of times it's not your fault. They swapped out an outgoing system and they changed the name of it. And your email settings don't automatically reconfigure. You have to do it manually. The other thing you can do, I'm going to zoom out now. Hello. Wrong way. There's another one just above it, and that's the activity monitor. So I can say, hey, check again. And of course, I don't have anything going on with my email. But what would happen, I'll do show detail. So I'm back in that one which is called Connection Doctor. And I clicked on this button here that said show detail. And if I tell it to check again, it'll start talking to all those servers again. Hey, you still there? Hi, I'm here. Are we connecting? Are we connecting? Are we connecting? Are we connecting? Sort of like when you've got a sales dweeb walking through a convention floor and he's seeing his prime customers, you know, make sure that connection is still there. Okay. So these are some tools that will help you identify what's going wrong. And the simple solution usually is not to try and reconfigure any of the details, but just delete the account on the local machine and reset it. And set it up fresh. Okay. Yes, Kathy?
Bill, sometimes I get that message too, and a long time ago I was frustrated with the password. So now I just go up and take everything offline, wait a little bit, put everything back online.
Okay.
What does
Are
that
these Yahoo or AOL accounts?
Time Warner.
Time Warner? Okay. There, it's not your computer, it's their servers for some reason. When I think of computer servers, I think of an elder beerman store. And sometimes you can find a clerk right away to check out, okay, and you just, you know, boom, and you're out. And other times, there's only one register open. Well, actually, elder beerman, there would be no registers open. Anyway, Macy's, okay.
Soon there won't be any of them.
There's one register open, and you've got this line of people, you got some people coming in from over kitchen appliances, not just in, females' clothing, men's clothing, and they're all converging on that one. And at the front, you have the person who's making purchases for her friends or his friends. And each one has to be, this one is cash, and this one's with a personal check, and this one's with food stamps, and this one's with whatever. And then, oh, by the way, I have these returns too. So sometimes it's nothing to do with your computer at all. It has to do with their computers are real busy and they're not responding for one reason or another.
Now, when I take it offline and put it back online, does it put it back into sync? Is that why then it works?
What usually happens is it doesn't try and connect to the same server. Remember, they've got banks of these things. It'll go to a different one. So it's like you're in Trader Joe's, you sort of see this line is, and hey, over there, he just rang the bell, he did a liquor a liquor sale, and he's empty. Oh, cart over there. So that's a good rule of thumb to follow. Take them online, take them offline, and the way you do that in an actual menu. So I'm in my mailbox menu. Second item down, it says take all accounts offline. So all of my accounts are now showing that little thunderbolt thing. It's actually supposed to be a disconnected pair of wires, but it looks like a thunderbolt to me. All right, and then to reconnect them, you go back into that same menu. The first item says take all accounts online, and that's an example of an interface glitch. You're supposed to have one thing, it either says take them online or take them offline. One or the other, hide or show, and they didn't do that. So that's the sort of stuff that Steve Jobs would have been hammering people on.
What's the name of your tab?
That tab that menu that it's in is mailbox.
I can't read it. It's mailbox.
Mailbox. Yeah.
I got bad eyesight, I guess.
Here.
There you go. Thanks.
Okay. Just so I don't give people vertigo when I zoom in and zoom out. So then you say take it online, and then it forces them to reconnect.
What does synchronize all accounts imply?
Okay. Let's say I've created a user account on a machine and I've set up my email on it. Well, it's never really connected before, so it doesn't have a record of all those messages that are up there. So if I say synchronize, and usually I don't try and do synchronize all accounts, I'll just pick one of them here. So we'll pick this one and we'll say synchronize.
Don't you have to put it online again before you just...
I'm picking no, I can just pick one because it'll take it online to do it. So I said synchronize present at tmgdayton.org. What it does is it goes up to the server and says, okay, show me what I've got in the inbox and show me what is in the send box and what's in the draft box, and make a little notation on my local machine, so if I'm offline, I can be looking at these things and maybe even responding to them.
Wouldn't that address part of his problem to try to understand if the two things are working in harmony the way they're supposed to?
That's another way to do it, but the problem he's getting is it's not letting them do any of that because it's prompting them to put in a password. Okay. So it's one of these things where you've got a dialog box that comes up and it says it's the password, but it's really not the password. It's something else going on. Sort of like, my classic Windows dialog box, keyboard not found, press any key to continue. And you sort of go, and it's an actual dialog box.
Where's the any key?
And the keyboard is attached. You unplug it and you plug it back. But that's another good tool to use. Especially if you see, you go, wait a minute, I should have stuff in there that's not showing up for some reason. Tell it to synchronize. Yes, Dan?
I've done the same sort of thing. Take all offline, put them back online. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't.
It'll work if it's a connectivity problem. It won't work if it's a settings problem.
So apparently I've got a couple of kinds of problems with it. And I was just checking this morning, everything's working fine.
Okay,
Yesterday it wasn't.
okay. The other thing that will drive people absolutely bonkers, okay, and this is primarily with organizations where they're in the process of consolidating equipment and servers. So this would be Yahoo and AOL, now that they're all owned by Verizon, and they're being run under an operation called OATH, O-A-T-H. Don't know much about that. Your stuff may be working one day because that bank of servers is turned on. But the next day it isn't working because they got those turned off because they're taking them out of that rack and they're moving them over into this rack, or maybe they're wheeling them out the door to the recycler. And then they, put the image on the new machines and now they're available again. So you want to make sure that your settings are new because they're more generic. Instead of it pointing to a particular server, it's pointing to a group of servers, if you will. So it's the difference between walking into Harbor Freight and saying, I want to talk to Ned, and Ned's not there this day, and so nobody can help you, okay? As opposed to walking into Harbor Freight and saying, hey, I need to make a return. It was a cash purchase because I'm smart and I know not to do credit cards at Harbor Freight. It's cash, I can get it returned right away instead of having to go through a 3-day wait. And you're good to go. So you're being more generic rather than specific. Also works if you're doing Google searches. Don't be real specific. Be more generic. Okay. I think I've beaten that one into the ground.
Put things back online.
Hmm?
Don't forget to put it back online. I live tonight.
Take all accounts online. And here we go. Oh. And I have an important.
Yeah, you gotta answer that email.
Okay. Okay. So let me bring the other one back up. Okay, so we did help desk, so are we running ahead of time? Oh, good. Oh, okay, back in the room.
I have a DirecTV at home, and I have a DVR, and I'm thinking about leaving DirecTV. And there are a couple programs I've DVR'd that have friends, like on the news or Price is Right. I had a friend be on Price is Right.
Mm-hmm.
And is there any way to save those from, or is that all right protected on?
Okay, is this a proprietary device like a TiVo? Or is it one of the older legacy devices like a Panasonic?
No, it's a DirecTV product.
Oh, okay.
It
So it's the cable box and it's got the recorder and all that
Right.
inside it. That one, I'd have to do a little bit of research. So this is what we're going to do. Homework assignment.
Okay.
You send me an email.
All right.
I want the make, model, and serial number of the box. Okay?
Okay.
And it's going to be either on the back or the bottom. Whichever is least convenient is where it is. Okay? Let's do raffle. You ready? Beginner's Guide to Web Browser Extensions. And I want to talk about the 3 major web browsers, which are Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, and Apple Safari. And then this is for the standard, because this stuff gets posted. I actually do get emails every so often from people who watch the YouTube videos that we post. Unfortunately, it's usually about how I'm getting fatter every week. Or people were making comments about my hair, about alfalfa, cowboy stuff, so I'm upping my game with that. I'm going to a salon now. A gift from my wife. Okay, so browser extensions. How many of you know what a browser extension is? Okay. Now, are you thinking Flash, Java, Silverlight? No, you're not. Okay, so you're actually thinking about browser extensions.
One password.
Okay, so what are we going to cover? What are browser extensions? Are extensions and plugins the same? Why use browser extensions? How secure are they? Will they slow down your browser? Differences between browsers, where to get extensions. And then hopefully I'll just fire up the 3 web browsers and just show you how to get to the various stores. Okay, any questions so far?
I was thinking getting hair extensions.
Okay, I heard muttering there. Was it a question or was it just a general?
Interference. Sorry.
You know, most of us follow the rules and then there's, okay, that's all right. We love you anyway, sir. Okay, browser extensions. What are they? They're small programs, okay, that your web browser can have attached to it that let you do extra stuff. And it'll let you do things like add features to your web browser, modify web pages in terms of the content, okay, or integrate other useful services with your browser. Okay. So those first 2, additional features and modified web pages, those you typically are going to get those extensions from the web store of that browser company. Okay. These others, integrate other useful servers with your browser, that would be coming from the company that makes that other program. So for example, if you got something like Evernote, which is a note-taking program, and you have an account, you can store your stuff up there. There are browser extensions that you can put in, so if you're on a web page and you want to just take a snapshot and send it to your Evernote account, you just click on the web browser extension, it does it. Okay? Or copy and paste type things. Another example would be Avast, the antivirus program. They have a web browser extension which will end up just above your browser toolbar, which will, when you go to a web page, they'll say, what kind of stuff is that web page trying to do to your computer? Are they trying to look at your marketing information? Are they looking at your payment information? Are they trying to put third-party cookies on your thing? So those are things that would come from an actual program company that's making an application program. Okay, so are extensions and plugins the same? The answer is no, they are not the same. Plugins are things like Adobe Flash, Microsoft Silverlight, Oracle Java, and then there's a couple plugins. QuickTime would be a plugin from Apple, and then the follow-ons to that. Those plugins let your web browser take stuff and display it in the web browser. Prime example would be plugins from Adobe. So you're on a web page and there's a link to download the PDF, okay? And at one point in your life, when you clicked on the link, it would just download it. And now you click it and it shows it in the web browser. And then you have to find out where the hidden control is to say, hey, and download. So those are plugins. Plugins allow websites to embed and display content that are rendered within the plugin. They are an absolute gold mine for people who want to find zero-day flaws in coding to be able to hack your computer. So Flash, Java, not so much with Silverlight. They are known for having vulnerabilities, mainly Flash. The other way that they'll get in with plugins is they'll tell you your Flash is out of date, click here to install, but all the members of our group know you don't click on that button, you go to your system preferences and you go to the Flash control panel and you have Flash go look for it. Because 9 times out of 10, it's fake, it's bogus. Okay, so why use browser extensions? Well, to integrate with other services, so I already used the example of Evernote. The Evernote extension clips and saves websites to Evernote accounts. So you're on a web page, and they won't let you copy it, and they won't let you print it, but you want to save it. Usually it's a bank page or something. Well, with Evernote, you can just click on the Evernote browser extension, and it just does it. Okay, for some magic. There's extensions from Google for YouTube where you can again click on that extension. It'll take the YouTube video and post it automatically over to Facebook. Various sorts of things.
Where do you go get that Evernote extension?
If
While you're
you've got the program Evernote, when you install it, it puts that extension into your web browser.
Oh, so we bring up Evernote to begin with in the URL line of the browser. And then...
No, it would be this way. You're on the Apple App Store.
Sure.
Okay. And you're looking for note-taking programs. And one of the programs it shows is Evernote. And you click Get It. It's a freebie.
Right.
Okay. It then installs it on the computer, and it's not just a program in your applications folder, it's also putting in a browser extension. And it's going to put it in the browser that's your default browser.
Right.
So if you have Safari set as your default browser, it'll put the extension into Safari. If Google Chrome is your default browser, it'll take a Google Chrome extension from them and put it into the Google Chrome. But it won't just do it to all automatically. Okay. Another one is to add features to your browser. Example, there's a Chrome extension called Join Tabs. Now, I'm one of these people, if I've got more than 2 windows open in my web browser, I get lost. But there are people who will literally have 15, 20 tabs in one window, and another 20 or 30 tabs in another window, and even more stuff in another window. The reason why they're doing that is because they're not using a Macintosh operating system. They're using something like Chrome OS, which is basically where the browser is your operating system. Okay? Well, what the Join Tabs does, it takes all those tabs from various windows and puts them all in one window, so that the other 2 windows can be closed, and if you're on a Chrome box or a Chromebook, you've got minimal resources. So you want to close those other windows because then you're able to do all this stuff, but with less resources being used. Okay, I went in more detail on that than I should. Okay, it's an Apple user group. Okay. And then last but not least, to modify websites as they appear on your computer, adding, removing, or modifying content. All right. So 2 main ones that are out there. Adblock extensions and shopping extensions. Okay. Adblock extensions, you're on the Dayton Daily News website. And you've got ads over here, you've got videos playing over here, and somewhere in there is the article you actually want to read. If you have an adblock extension, all you see is the actual content. It blocks the videos from playing, it blocks all the ads from showing up. It would be like getting a Dayton Daily News where only the editorial content is printed, no advertisements. Okay. And by doing that, you're threatening the economic model, business model of the internet. Because how does Google make money? Pushing ads out to people. Okay. The other one that a lot of people have been known to use, not on Apple's web browser, but on other web browsers, is called Invisible Hand. And this is a reference to, my wife's an economist. Okay, Dave, go ahead.
You have the invisible hand, right?
David?
Ad block.
Yeah.
How do I get it?
Which browser are you using?
Google, Chrome?
Google. You go to the Google Web Store, and I'll show that before we're done the presentation. And I'll show you how to search for it too. And you're going to find there's a whole bunch of different ones there. Okay. So anyway, invisible hand. So I live and sleep with an economist. My wife, she's an economist. So I know Adam Smith and the invisible hand, market forces, so they're referring to all that. But what the invisible hand extension does is you're using a web browser to shop, and you're on Kohl's. You're in Kohl's department store. And you're doing a search for shoes. And the shoes come up that you're looking at, and invisible hand will go out to other competing store chains and look for the same item and then show you over on the side what price they have for the same item.
Huh,
Okay.
interesting.
Okay. So it's modifying what you would normally see on your web browser page by adding content, where ad block extensions remove content. Okay. So those are the three main ways that extensions are being used. But really the bottom line is you use an extension if it makes your life easier. Okay. If it's adding quality, making tasks that you do simpler. All right, so next thing that everybody should be thinking about is, okay, how secure are they? Well, let's just look at this for a minute. Okay, you want to be careful about selecting browser extensions, because what do people use web browsers to connect to? Shopping sites, banks, government sites. And when you do that, you're putting in username, password, and you're putting into what? Your web browser. So if you've got an extension that's malicious, theoretically it could be just snooping on where you're going and what you're doing. Okay, sort of like the carnivore extensions that FBI uses to track where people are looking at and that. Or it could capture login info, or it could be capturing credit card info. Okay, so that's why you want to be careful about which ones you use and where they came from. So in the same way that if a pop-up comes up and it says, oh, your flash is out of date, click here, I don't click there. If something pops up and says, oh, we got this wonderful browser extension, it'll make your searches 300% more efficient, just don't click on it. Don't add that. You want to go to a known source for it. The other thing is, even well-intentioned extensions could have bugs that put your data at risk. So again, you don't want to be just willy-nilly installing these types of things in. If you're going to test something out, use it on a machine that you don't do your banking from. Okay. And then if it isn't working out or it just doesn't seem to be doing anything for you, immediately uninstall it.
Question.
Yep.
The apps that put the extension on to extend their capability,
Mm-hmm.
when they do an update to that application, does that automatically do updates to the extensions as necessary?
If it's a Microsoft program, they make you jump manually through hoops to update those extensions. If it's a company like Dropbox or Evernote or I'm trying to think of another one that's out there. That typically when you put the new program on, the first thing it's going to do is say, and it wants to add these, update these helpers, or it wants to update your add-ons, or it wants to update your extensions. Those are the three terms that are normally used: helper, add-on, or extension. Okay. The term add-on applies also to plugins. So when I say add-ons to a web browser, they can mean extensions or plugins. Helpers are almost always specific to a particular application that you've installed, and it's putting things on the other things onto the computer in various places, make the program work better. Okay, good question. I forget to compliment you folks. You ask good questions, especially the ones where I don't know the answer, and then I have to go learn stuff. Okay, so the next thing is, will they slow down your browser? Okay, I'm going through the negatives, you know, so you gotta be concerned about security. Is it gonna slow down your browser? The answer is yes. Okay. Each extension is another piece of code running on your computer. You got another program running. And whenever the browser's running, all those extensions are running. And enough of them can bog down your browser. So you want to limit the extensions you use. Just use, you know, if you're not using an extension anymore, remove it. And if you are using it, it's adding quality to your life, then keep it. But don't overload your browser with tons of extensions. And don't install competing extensions. So if you've already got an ad block extension, don't install another 8 ad block extensions. Okay, because they'll be, think of it's a hiring hall during the Great Depression. Okay? And you just hired 8 guys to do one job. And they're all in there fighting to do the job as well as possible and to make the other guy look bad. That's sort of what you're doing. You're creating that sort of confusion and barn fight when you install a bunch of extensions that are doing the same thing. You want to pick one. Try it, see if it gets you there, and stick with it. Okay, differences between browsers. Now here, I'm not talking about technical programming differences between browsers. I'm talking about the number of extensions that are available and where you get these extensions and how well they're vetted. Okay? So, Chrome, that's Google, Google Chrome, they've got a thriving extension ecosystem. The reason why they have a thriving ecosystem is because they have this thing called Chrome OS, where your web browser is the operating system. And for people that are running Chromebooks and Chromeboxes, you don't install additional programs, you're really installing extensions. It's just if it's a really big extension, they call it an app, but it's really an extension. All right, so they've got tons of extensions. So there's an extension for almost anything you want to do. And again, I mentioned Chrome OS, browser's operating system. Well, Chrome places more limits on its browser extensions, so they can't be quite as powerful as they are in Firefox. The reason why is those netbooks, those Chromebooks, those Chrome boxes are minimum resource devices. Instead of having 8 gig or 16 gig, you got 2. Instead of running an i7, i5, i3 processor or Xeon processor, you're running Atom processors. This is the low end of the low end of the Intel. Okay? So they don't have a lot of resources, so they've got to be parsimonious in how they do stuff. So no code bloat. All right. And the other thing is, Google, they have a permission system on what extensions are allowed to do, and so they sort of keep a more secure environment. You know, extensions are only allowed to do certain things, and if they try and go beyond that limit, it's like mama going, nope, can't do that. All right, so Chrome extensions, there's tons of them. They tend to be less powerful, but they also tend to be more secure. So now we're going to talk about Firefox. All right, the folks at Mozilla, Firefox, and remember, Firefox runs on Microsoft operating systems, Macintosh operating systems, and Linux operating systems. If you want to find programmers, you look in the Linux world, okay? Because you're modifying almost everything. So, Firefox is known for having the most powerful extensions, and that's why many people use Firefox. Just because you can get extensions to do unbelievable things. And Firefox makes many advanced extensions possible that wouldn't be possible on any other browser. Downside, more powerful extensions, inherently less secure. Okay? You can roll your own stuff and have it do all sorts of weird things. So you want to always make sure that you're choosing your Firefox extensions wisely. Okay. Now I was waiting for Rick to raise his hand and say, ooh, tell him about how Firefox just disabled all extensions for a 2 or 3 day period. And Firefox did that. It was a programming error, but after it happened, they were sort of glad it did happen because it forced them to review the number of extensions that were available from the Mozilla Firefox add-on store. And they purged, I'm going to say a good 2,000, 3,000 extensions from the store because they felt they were had the potential to be malicious. Okay. I still would always say, Firefox extensions, you're going to be more powerful but less secure. But they're paying more attention to that. And then last but not least, Safari. Okay. So, if we're talking about Google Chrome extensions, we're talking several thousand. We're talking Firefox. We're talking about lots of them out there, and lots of variations of the same extension. With Safari, they have the fewest number of extensions for the Safari web browser. That's because Apple is extremely restrictive on what extensions are allowed to do, and Apple vets both the developer, okay, the person, the company that's providing the extension. You got to be in their developer program, and you got to pass all of the stuff to be in the store. Okay, so they're much more careful. And then, last but not least, to offset the increased development costs, many, if not most, Safari extensions are not free. It's free to install, but there's add-ons that you can buy that'll cost you money, or it'll be $9.99, and you can put the extension on. So this is all done through the Apple App Store, special little place just for extensions. And again, I'm going to say there's probably less than 50, 60 extensions that are specifically for the Safari web browser from Apple. Okay. I'm going to just stop for a minute. Any questions? Am I getting you where you want to be? Doing okay? This is the last slide. Where to get extensions. They're available from add-on websites. So that would be the Apple App Store. And after I close out the presentation, I'm going to fire up Safari, I'm going to fire up Google Chrome, I'm going to fire up Mozilla, show you exactly how to get to those stores and how to see what extensions you have running now. The Chrome Web Store and the Firefox add-on site. Other browsers, that would be Opera, Vivaldi, Maxon, they have their own set of web extensions. Typically, they're going to be based either on Firefox or Chromium, so they're going to have basically the same stuff that you would have for Google Chrome or for Firefox. With some legacy web browsers, they may have a handful, but it's usually developed by their own people. Okay.
What about DuckDuckGo?
DuckDuckGo and StartPage are two anonymous search engines, and they have extensions that you can add on. You'll probably notice if you're using Google Chrome or Firefox on the Mac, DuckDuckGo puts an extension in. If you're doing Safari, all it'll do is change what the search engine is because they're already built into Safari, but you don't get an extension. And it has to do with a difference of opinion between about privacy rights and people's right to their data, the difference between DuckDuckGo and Apple. Okay. You know, Apple is making a lot of money with services, and to do that, they need marketing information to be able to do that. Okay. So like I said, that was the last slide. Any questions at this point? Okay. So now I'm gonna, what's that? Okay. Do you have a preference on which web browser I bring up first? Let's do it this way. How many of you use Google Chrome? How many of you use Firefox? How many use Safari? Okay, I'll start with Safari. Okay, here we go. So I'm launching Safari. Okay, I've got a Safari web browser up and running. If I want to get to extensions, I go to the application menu. Let me just real quick. So, you know, right next to the Apple, that first menu where it's got the name of the program, that's called the application menu. So you go there, and the second item, Safari extensions. Click on that, and then we wait for a minute. It's taking you to the App Store, the section which is just Safari extensions. And let's see, we've got like 5 on the line, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lines. So we've got under 100 web browser extensions. So that would be, let's do this, 13 times 5. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so it's under 65, because one of the rows wasn't fully populated. Okay. And let me get back to where it was there. But notice, Safari, the web browser, shifted you over to the Apple App Store. Okay, so let's right now these things are sorted by what's featured. So let's, they don't have it by type. Okay, all right. So I'm just going to look at that first 2 lines. The first one is one blocker, and I'm going to say that's an ad blocker. Then we've got MarsEdit, that's basically a markup program. And the first one was $10, and the other one was free to install, but there's in-app purchases. And then we've got Magic Lasso, an ad block program. Blogo, which is if you're using a web browser to update your blog site. Okay, so it's got all that kind of stuff. Kablock, which is another ad block. Bookmark, which is basically, it just goes out, looks in your bookmarks, and brings up a random bookmark. That's for people with way too much disposable time. Vault, which is a password manager. Utility Cube, I have no idea what that does. I'll just click on it real quick. Hello. Turn your Mac into a Swiss knife by using this group of utilities. Everything you need is here, but they don't tell you what that is. It's this thing it's a $4 thing, is an ad block, a privacy browser, a widget translator, a voice reader, a voice recorder, another type of voice reader, a Pro Translate, and then another translator for Safari. Okay. Again, that idea of you're modifying a web page in terms of the content, it's all in Chinese, but if you have these other widgets, boom, it shows up in English, automatically translated. Okay. Now let's get back to Safari here for a second.
If I had one of those already, how would that be indicated?
Okay. So you've got that first one that I just showed you, which is how you get to the App Store.
Right.
And then the other one would be where you can disable extensions. Right now, this Safari web browser has no extensions in it. So if you selected that disable extension, there's also one that would say add, show extension builder. So it's all in your developer menu. Okay. Let's see if we wanted to add an extension. Let me put one in real quick. Okay, we'll just click and do that one. Yeah, install it.
What is that?
It's a writing program, text editor, and it puts an extension into your web browser. So it'd be like Evernote where it adds it in. But let me do it rather than Safari, because Safari is where it really, their extension universe is not very diverse, okay? So if you're using Safari, typically you're going to use an ad block program, and there's only a couple of those. So let me put an ad block on Safari. So let me get in there. Okay, let's do it by, featured. So we'll do something like a block. So I'm going to say here, get it, put it in. It's an ad block program. It does an okay job. And then we click on install it, and these things are taking forever in a day to install. And I'll give it a little bit of time and see if it finishes up, and if not, okay, that's going to burn up too much time here. So we'll just let it continue. Okay, that one finished. All right, so here's Kablock, and we have to go into Safari settings extensions. Okay, so I'm in Safari. I go to my application menu. I go to preferences, and one of the preferences is extensions. And this is where we can enable stuff. So I come up and I say, all right, enable. Where's the enable?
You've got disable checked.
Yeah, let me uncheck it. There we go. Sorry. I'm one of these people, I tend to keep things locked down because I work on Windows machines so much. So here we've got 4 different extensions. We've got the Swagbucks extension. We've got an Open in Explorer extension. We've got a Send to Mars Edit extension. Now we've got Kablock. All right, so Kablock blocks advertising and tracking scripts. So where you disable or temporarily turn off extensions is done in Preferences in Safari. Okay. I think that's as far as I want to go with Safari. All right. So what was the Firefox? We had more people than Google Chrome? Okay, so let's do Firefox real quick here. And there we go. There's our Fox wrapped around the globe. Now with Firefox, you want to go to the Tools menu. Tools. And you want to look for what's called add-ons. All right. Now, Firefox are very much about, you go to the same place to handle any of the plugins or the extensions. So now I'm on Add-ins Manager. And if I click on this thing that looks like a puzzle piece with the word extension to it, it says you don't have any add-ons. I have no extensions installed in Firefox at all. And if I click on plugins, it's telling me that I've got 2 plugins that are installed. And they're set to auto-activate, and this, I can also see if the plugins are out of date, and I can update them from here if I want to. But let's get some add-ons. Well, to do that, I click on that first thing, which says Get Add-ons. And they're going to show me the standard ones that people do. So one is an ad blocker, it's called Ghost. Another one is improved videos, stop Facebook tracking. So I'll just add that ad blocker to Firefox. But this is not the whole store of stuff. So while it's doing that, let's just back up here a second. Go ahead and add that. So Ghostery is now ready. So that's now been added as an extension. But if I go back to that add-on page that was in Tools, and I click on this button that says Find More Add-ons, then it takes me to the Firefox website where we can look at a whole bunch of different types of add-ons. Again, here, I'm going to just put in real quick, I'm just going to put in the word add, return, and it just came up with about 60 ad block 60 ad block extensions, and that's just the first page of about 8. Okay. So the problem with Firefox is not finding an extension, it's deciding which extension to use. So it's sort of the difference between going into Macy's and Gimbel's or going into a gun department store in Moscow. You know, you go into Moscow and you want to buy shoes, there you go. That's the one brand of shoes. It's changed a little bit, but not much. And if you go into a Macy's Gimbel's, it's like, oh, what color do you want? Do you want them high? Do you want them low? Do you want men's, women's, whatever? Too many choices. Okay. Now again, just to remind everyone, Safari, if you want to disable extensions, you're going to go into your preferences. Okay? If you want to find extensions, you go to the application menu and select that Safari extensions. Takes you to the App Store. Firefox, you go to your Tools menu and you select add-ons.
Could I go to the App Store and just search extensions?
Yeah, except that the way they rework the App Store, it'll take you forever and a day to find where those 40, 65 extensions are. It's a lot faster to just go from a Safari web browser. And with Firefox, they give you the most common ones, but if you want to search for something else, click on that, find more add-ons, then it takes you to the Firefox website where they have all the different add-ons that they've vetted. Okay. Again, you want to make sure you know where this stuff is coming from. Okay. So if it's coming directly from Apple, an Apple-controlled website, or it's coming from Firefox, Mozilla's website, or it's coming from the Google Chrome website, you've got a good confidence there that it's not going to be malicious and it's going to be efficacious. All right, I'm going to bail out of Firefox now. Close those tabs. Now we're going to fire up Google Chrome. There's a variation of Chrome called Chromium. It's the original web browser, free open source web browser, without all of the Google marketing stuff sent into it. Google Chrome and Chromium all use the same extensions. So if you find something that works very well in Chrome, but you're not comfortable being part of the Google blogosphere, whatever, I can't think of a term for it. You want to maintain more privacy about what you're doing, you use the Chromium web browser. Okay, so I'm in Chrome, and let's see. If I go into preferences, now there's so many preferences in Google Chrome, they have a search engine just to search the preferences. So I'm going to put extensions, just extension in, and what is it showing up? Not showing much there. Let me do it the other way. Here we go. They got a separate thing that's just extensions. So here I'm looking at what extensions and Chrome apps I have running in this Google Chrome. So I've got a thing called Avast Online Security, and I can temporarily turn it off by hitting this switch, or I can click the remove button, or I can click the details button. Detail button, it'll really give me good information about what it's allowed to do and what it is doing. And then I've got another extension that's called Keep Awake, so that's where that web browser will not let the machine go to sleep. It's like if I'm, watching a movie and I don't want it to, the Mac to, go into its sleep mode or whatever, by having this extension in Google Chrome, it keeps it awake, keeps it up and moving. And then you've got things like Google Docs Online, and then things that they call applications. That would be Docs, Sheets, Slides, the equivalent of Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Excel, except it's all done via the cloud. Okay, now, what if I want to see all of the stuff that's available? Well, then I'm going to be clicking over here to the far left of the menu bar where it says Apps. And these are my Google apps, and one of them is the Web Store. So if I click on the Web Store, we've got extensions and themes that are available. Well, let's see. Usually I'm cheap, so I always click the free button. Just show me the free stuff. Okay, so I'm going to say conservatively there's somewhere under 2,000 extensions that are free, available from the Google Web Store. So let's be a little more selective. Let's just do shopping. SHOPPING. Press return. So we've got something called, now this is all new to me. All right, I deliberately did not vet this stuff ahead of time. Rung Ring, free cashback shopping assistant. Okay, I'm guessing that one, if you keep your receipts stored in your Google Mail account, this thing periodically looks through it and see if, oh, wait, there was, you could have had this deal, you could have gotten this for less, and you get money back, and it's constantly doing this automatically. Ebates for Putin, which is cashbacks for shopping, rapid reward shopping buttons, Deals Daddy, shopping starts here, online grocery shopping, you get the idea? Lots and lots of stuff there. I'm going to type in the word system. Okay, so these are things that are considered to be system things. If I was on Google Chrome OS, and I wanted to know how much memory I was going to use, well, all you have is a web browser. You don't have direct access to your operating system. So how are you going to be able to tell what's going on? Well, there's a program, it won't let me download it because it knows I'm on a Mac, but if I was on Chrome OS, it would show me this extension called System. And I can click on that, and it'll show me what my resolution my display is at, how much of my memory is being used, how much storage space I've got left, how long the computer's been on, the sort of things that an operating system would normally tell you. But in Chrome OS, they have that all hidden from you. And then there's other things like if you want to play Steam games, you can install the Steam system inside your web browser and be able to run that. Or different sorts of interfaces you can do. Call Hippo, which is a virtual phone system. Think of it, it's like UMA or, I'm trying to think of the other voice over IP. Is David here? David, what was the voice over IP box you brought in?
Oh, that?
Yeah.
Vonage.
Vonix. Vonix is another voice over IP. Well, this allows you to do that without buying any hardware. Okay, Call Hippo. It's all virtualized. Let's see what else we got here. Let's put in translate. So we've got one-click translate, Google Translate, which is their own extension, in translator, Google Now theme, motion, all sorts of different stuff going on. Okay, and I think your brains are full at this point, so I'm going to just quit out of this. I'm going to say, are there any last questions? Yes, Bill.
What extensions do you normally use?
I tend to only use 2 extensions. One is a shopping extension where it'll bring up things and show me what current prices are. Because I buy a lot of RAM for customers' computers, and RAM prices, if I buy it on Amazon, the same thing, the Amazon price, there'll be 4 or 5 different places I can get it on Amazon. And if I'm doing Google shopping, there's about 15 or 20 there. And if I'm just randomly, it's too much for me to handle. And it's an extension that looks at just RAM prices. Okay? And it will also put in shipping costs, and it'll also factor in, am I ordering it from somebody in Australia, where it's going to be a while before it gets to me, because it's going to be put on a boat, okay? Or am I buying it from someone that's, part of the Amazon system, and it'll be like on my door front before I finish, logging out of the computer. The other one is with one of these penny pincher type websites where you can generate gift cards by watching videos and such, and answering survey questions. And so that's the other one that I have. And I typically use those extensions just to track, because I've got stuff automated. I got stuff automated. So I'm just using it to track different accounts, how much they accumulate. The way I like to think of it is like having a bunch of maple trees out there dripping sap, and you walk along your sap line every so often just to check which buckets you're going to pull. Well, that extension lets me do that. I have that automated, so I don't have to actually walk the sap line. I can just, pull out my dashboard and be able to see, oh, okay, yeah, it's time for me to cash these in for a gift card. Because, you never know how long these view for gift card sites are going to be around. So you want to, grab it while you can, convert it into this, a virtual Visa card, or turn it into an Amazon gift card or something. Turn it into something where they're going to be around for a while. Like a Home Depot, a Lowe's, a Walmart, a Target, or one of those. Okay. Other than that, I typically don't mess around with extensions much. But I have noticed a lot of my customers use them, and they really make things easier for them in terms of the sorts of things they do. A prime example would be some of the seniors that I know that are still able to travel, and they're looking at booking information. So they've got extensions that will sort of go ding dong, hey, it's a really neat price for this flight to Ireland. And they'll go, yeah, okay, grab it, and they just go. Because they have no other responsibilities than they can do that kind of stuff. And if the price is right, their bags are paid. Okay, does that come close to sort of answering your...
Yeah, I was just curious which ones are the most commonly used.
Number one is going to be ad blocks, because people don't want to see the advertisements on the pages. And they don't care if they're fomenting the complete economic collapse of the internet business model as we know it today. I mean, they're just anarchists. Okay, yeah.
Okay. I don't know, I use Ghostery. I don't know whether you like it, dislike it, or whatever. Ghostery, it's an ad blocker.
Yeah.
But I can customize.
Yeah.
But what I don't like is when I get on the web, I do not want to see on the side the last 3 things I left in my shopping cart or wherever else I was. I don't wanna see it. I hate the fact they're tracking that.
Yeah.
So I use Ghostery, so at least I don't have to look at it, because I know they're tracking me. I'm not delusional, but
Now,
have
one
you
of
ever
the-
used it? I
One
guess.
of the disadvantages of using that travel extension is that it knows that you're interested in what trips you've gone on, and it builds a predictive model of what trips you'd be interested in. So it's sucking more information about you in to be used. There are ways that you can be anonymous.
I know.
You know, the question is that going to be helpful enough to you or not?
Well, as I said, I use Ghostery because
Yeah.
at least I don't see it again.
Yeah,
They're blocking
Yeah.
that. But I realize it also takes a level of, you can disable it.
yeah,
Because at times you do, like you do want that pop up because you do need to put that information in and, you have to.
or you can use a web browser that's completely private. So you could use something like a Tor browser, or you can run a web browser where you're completely, you're always in private mode.
And go in the dark web. Yeah.
Well, it's not quite dark web.
Sorry.
Dark web is another level,
Never mind.
okay? And I don't want to go there.
Okay.
So anyway, is there one last question then? Going once, going twice?
I use an extension, I saw it come up, it's called Honey. What it does is it goes out and searches for coupon codes. So as you're going through a checkout,
Yeah.
it tests all these different coupon codes that people have had success with and finds you the best deal as you check out. So,
There's one of the shopping extensions I use does that automatically. It goes out to, it goes out to a couple of the websites that are all different. Usually when I want to go out to eat, so it's, it'd be like, print out this thing and, one meal is free for every, both buy.
but just that extension alone has probably saved me a couple of $100.
Yeah. So,
Honey.
So what I would recommend is that you just sort of take a look and see if there's something that's out there that might make your searches and such easier, or ad blocks to make reading of newsprint and such easier. I would be very open for members to sort of send me emails about what extensions they use, and maybe I'll present that to a list of the members. Because let's face it, you folks are smarter than me, and you do more interesting stuff than I do. And remember, I come here to learn too. So if you're using extensions, send those out.